Okay, good afternoon, everybody. A couple quick housekeeping items before we get going. We'll look at probably somewhere in the 30 minutes max time frame for this session. There are two microphones up in the front, one to the right, one right in front of me here. When the time comes, please raise your hand. I'll call on you, come up to that mic, and you can ask your questions of Coach. At the end of this session, you all have seen the trophies on display over to the left. We'll have a photographer go over and shoot some photos first of Barry, and then after that, we'll call you all up in shifts to come and do shoot photos as well. Lastly, once we're done with the photo shoot, we'll ask you to leave the building and certainly free to do stand-ups and so on outside of Gate A here at the Kohl Center or Camp Randall or elsewhere. So with that, we'll get started with question and answer. First up. Come on up, Jim.
Barry, can you kind of tell us why now? You've probably been thinking of this for a while. I'm just curious. Can you take us through the timing of this all?
Yeah, actually, Jim, I was set to do it this past January and visited with the chancellor and didn't think at that particular time with COVID and the things we had to deal with, it would be fair to pass the baton to someone and put them in that position. So I told her I would try to get us through COVID. And I think that hopefully we're past the better part of it, and we're seeing some progress and moving forward. And I just think it's time. I'm 74 years old. I've had a good run. It's just time to pass the baton. I'm healthy. I have some things that I want to do. My wife and I want to travel. I have grandkids that I want to follow and support. So it was just time.
Steve McGargy, Associated Press. Just wondering, what made you realize, obviously you had a great career as a coach, but how were you able to kind of adjust to athletic administration, be the athletic director you were, and what gave you the confidence you could fill that role the way you have?
You know, again, I use my college football coach as a mentor and somebody that I had great respect for, and try to pattern my career after him, even from starting as a high school coach and working my way up through assistant to a head coaching job. I told Pat Richter when I interviewed for the job, he asked me to lay out my future. And it wasn't, I had no specific school that was a dream job. I wanted to go someplace like my coach did at Nebraska, build it, sustain it, take over as athletic director, and continue to sustain it. So that was always my ultimate plan. I moved into administration. Pat made me a senior staff member probably 3 or 4 years before before he retired and I took over. And the thing you learn in coaching, you learn how to make decisions. You know, there may be different decisions, but you learn to be a decision maker and have to be a decision maker, not afraid to make decisions. I always felt that that being a former coach and being able to relate to your coaches, the 23 coaches that I have, I might have an advantage over athletic directors. I can get some that can handle finances, and I can get people to do some other things, but the business part of it. But I can manage people. I can manage the coaches. I can support the coaches, and I guess I'm a good decision maker because you make enough decisions in this business. If you don't make enough good ones, you're not around long enough. So I just felt very confident. I knew the business, I knew the league, and I felt confident in it.
Good, Mike.
Barry, Chancellor Blank said that we'll know more tomorrow about the national search, but why is Chris McIntosh the right person for that job? Can you talk about that? Will you campaign for him? How does that part play?
Mike, I'm reluctant to talk about Mac. You know, a number of my deputies and former senior staff have gone on to and become athletic directors. Even one is a commissioner now. But Chris McIntosh is a player here. He loves Wisconsin. He understands it. It means something to him. Very bright, and he's been outstanding. And I've given him a lot of responsibility. He spearheaded many of the things that we did in managing staff and how we managed everything throughout COVID. I'm going to be reluctant to beat the bandwagon. People know how I feel about Mac. You know, I feel like my responsibility somewhat was to have someone prepared. He'll go through the process. I know the committee. I know Pete Miller is going to be the chair of the committee. I have a lot of confidence in Pete. And they'll have a process they go through, and I'm sure Mac will do a very good job in the process.
Mark.
That said, Barry, for whoever is the next AD, I guess I'm just wondering what advice would you give that person going into this job, knowing the job as you do?
I would say learn Wisconsin, understand the state, understand this university and the idiosyncrasies of this university and the politics of both the state and the university. You know, realize there's a way to get it done. There are no shortcuts. We've done it here for a long time by doing it the right way. There's a current culture here that's a proven culture. I know whoever comes in has to put their own fingerprints on the job. I wouldn't tell them how to do the job. I'd be there to support and give advice anytime they wanted it. But, you know, as a wise man once said, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
In the back.
Barry, I know you have a lot of them over here. Stephanie Sutton, WISN. I know you have a lot of moments, but what moment stands out for you most as a football coach, and what moment stands out for you most as athletic director here at Wisconsin?
You know, winning at first Rose, there's nothing like the first Rose Bowl. I love the Rose Bowl. I'd coached 2 of them before I came here when I was at Iowa. I said then, the first time we went out there, our team was overwhelmed just when you took the field. And there are certain ways you go about your business, and that'll be hard to beat. Although going to Tokyo to win a game to clinch that was right there with it. That was pretty special. As far as athletic director, you know, anytime one of my teams win a championship, just to be able to celebrate, see them celebrate, is a highlight for me.
In back.
Barry, straight back. George Blackey with NBC 15.
Straight back, coach.
Okay.
When you first took this job, you described it as all you had to sell to the players, the football players, was blue skies. And when you stepped down as head coach, you take over as AD, you said you saw Wisconsin as a sleeping giant. Now, 32 years later, how do you describe Wisconsin?
I describe Wisconsin as one of the best athletic programs in the country, one of the most consistent athletic programs in the country, one that a lot of people where a lot of people would like to be. You know, a number of coaches that have come through here, and I hear it time and time again. The best job I ever had was at the University of Wisconsin, and I believe that.
Todd.
Barry, how has this job changed you over 31 years, or this place changed you as a person, and why?
You know, I don't know if it's changed me. I've always been a pretty confident person, had ideas of how I wanted to do things. And so I guess the thing about the athletic director's job that you have to understand there are so many layers in it, so many things that you have to have your fingers on. You have to lean on a lot of people to stay on top of all the things that are going on. And there are so many areas that you could disappoint people or upset people, whether it be tickets, parking, it goes on and on. You lose a tough game, fundraising. There are just a lot of things, decisions on building. So there are just many layers that you don't think about until you're in the middle of the job.
Go, Jim.
Barry, you've been in the spotlight here for 3+ decades, and I think it's safe to say you've enjoyed that. Are you, any part of you going to miss that, or are you kind of looking forward to just, being out of it?
I read a quote by my wife. She said, "I like to be important." Everybody likes to have an audience. Well, maybe everybody doesn't. I do. I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss being around the people. That's what I miss most when I left coaching. You lose the closeness and the relationships you have with the players and your assistant coach. Now I have more relationships with my assistants, with the staff, but you don't have the close relationship as an administrator with the student athletes as you do working day to day with them, hand to hand, meeting with them, having them to your house, and everything else as you do with the coach. I really miss that. I'll be in, I will miss being in the middle of the fray. I'll miss that, but I've already had people call me that they want me to consult with them and help. So I'll keep my finger in the pot.
Barry, when you look over to your left and you see sort of the symbols of all the success and everything that's happened over the last 3 decades, what are some of the emotions that come to mind as you're looking at those?
It's very satisfying. So I think Mark Johnson might be the only head coach that I didn't hire in this staff, and to see what they were able to accomplish, what our student athletes were able to accomplish by doing it the right way, and I know that the coaches that are here care about the kids first, and that's always been the most important thing for me. So to see that much success, it just makes me feel proud. I just want to bust my buttons. I'm so proud of what my people have accomplished.
Tom.
Tom Oates State Journal.
Hey, Oaksy.
Hey, Barry.
I remember you, Oaksy.
When you came here, you were really bold and aggressive. I think we know now that's a big part of your personality, but did you feel this place needed leadership and needed that kind of aggressive, bold approach to push it to a different level?
You know what, Tom? I didn't look at it that way. I really had I worked with a guy named Chuck Heater. If you remember, Chuck was on Dave McClain's staff here. He was my secondary coach at Notre Dame. He really prepared me for what was lacking in this job. The number one thing was a relationship with the high school coaches and being able to keep those the players here. So I really had a good plan. And as a coach, you have to have confidence, and particularly if you're going to turn a program around, you have to have confidence, and sooner or later you better back it up, but I just always had that confidence. I really never thought of, is that something I have to do to get the program turned or to win? But I know this, as a leader, you better show confidence to all those that they're working for you and all those that are playing for you. If you're not confident, no one's confident. And so it has to start from there. I can remember, I don't know if I've told this story, I've probably put it in my book, Lukey. I can remember that first year, we'd lose those games. I'm getting ready. I'd go in and watch the films. Now on Monday, I'd have to go in and meet with the assistant coaches, then the head coach, or then the team, and I'd have to walk in. I'd have to be confident. But before I'd walk in there, I'd curl up in my office in a fetal position, aching. I was hurting so bad, but I couldn't let anybody see that. So I just think that's part of leadership, is showing strength.
Mark.
Barry, you were pretty, given the circumstance, you were pretty composed up there, except maybe that toward the end, I sensed maybe a faint, you were kind of maybe breaking a little bit. But can you just speak a little bit to the emotions of the day and how challenging maybe was it, if at all, for you to kind of keep your composure while you're up there kind of saluting people and thanking everyone for your, things over your career?
You know what, Mark, I watched Coach Williams' speech the other day, in his retirement, and him breaking down. I decided I wanted to tell some stories, try to make it fun, honor some of the people that made this a good trip for me. There'll be plenty of time for me to get emotional, but today I just wanted to have some fun and share some of those stories and tell people how much I appreciated them.
Dennis.
Coach Dennis Crosby, Spectrum News 1.
Dennis.
Different skill sets, coach and AD, and you were successful at both. How were they different?
The main thing, as I said earlier, you have many more layers in the AD's job. You're managing people. You're not judged week to week as you are as a coach, wins and losses. It's an accumulation of things, but you have so many things that you're responsible for. You're responsible for every team. You're responsible for tickets. You're responsible for fundraising, building, academics, compliance, et cetera, et cetera. There are just so many layers and so many things you have to keep your fingers on. But in the end, it's still about dealing with people and making decisions. It's a little different. And I've told athletic directors this. You think you have stress. You think your job is tough. An athletic director's job is very difficult. But guys, it doesn't even come close to comparing to the stress and pressure that a head coach has. It doesn't come close to that pressure. I don't know if guys want to hear it or not, but I've been in both shoes, and I know which one is more stressful. So they're both difficult jobs. They're different jobs, but in the end, they're about managing people.
Todd.
Barry, college athletics is in a position of big change. There's been a lot of changes over the last 30 years. What of all of that has happened in the past and maybe that's coming in the future gives you pause in terms of what you want to see compared to what's happening or what might happen? Is that any part of your decision to walk away now, is to maybe not be a part of things that are coming down the road?
No, and I'm not afraid of change. I can remember going in when Gary Anderson left. And I remember walking in front of the team, and the thing I told him about him leaving. And I said, everybody is nervous about change. Embrace change. You're going to have to live with change the rest of your lives. Embrace it, but trust me, I'm going to hire you a good coach. We're going to have a good bowl experience. But embrace change and use this as a life lesson. I am concerned about the future of college athletics. I think some of the decisions that are going to be made on NIL, transfers, some of the lawsuits that are coming out could really affect the future and college athletics as we see it. But if I wasn't ready to retire, I'd be ready to attack it. I'd be ready to, whatever they gave me, I'd make the best of it. I'd figure out a way for it to be an advantage. That's just the way I operate.
In the back.
Barry, if I would have told you after you won a state championship game in Mason City that you'd have all the success that you've had here, what would you say?
I know. I'm serious. I can remember one of my players told me, Coach, it won't be long. You'll be a head coach in college someplace. I said, I know.
Stephanie?
That was, I tell you what, that game, winning that state championship in Mason City, Iowa, was still as great a thrill as winning the Rose Bowl, believe me, or winning the national championship. It's still about kids producing and doing something that people didn't think you could do.
Barry, what is your message to Wisconsin fans as you leave the university, and how do you want them to remember you most?
I'd like for him to remember me as the guy that backed up what he promised. And I also want to thank him. I love Wisconsin. I love the fans. They've been great to me. I've had some unbelievable experiences. I can't go any place. I can remember walking into a hotel lobby in London, Cindy and I, and there was a guy playing the piano. He started playing on Wisconsin. Being in the middle of Aruba, and somebody talking to me about the Rose Bowl, and I said, "Are you from Wisconsin?" He said, "No, I'm from here." I said, "How do you know me?" He said, "We only get 4 channels, and ESPN's one of them." So Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin gave me a great opportunity, great vehicle. The people in this state have been great to me. The university, people at the university have been wonderful. Cindy and I and our family have been able to do what we wanted to do. We wanted to put roots down and call a place home. We've done that here. I appreciate everything all of them have done and the support that they've given me. I love this place.
Anybody else?
Got one in the back.
I'm scared to have this question come up here.
Oh, no. From the Grafton Epitaph.
You can turn the cameras off. I'm Ted Kellner from the Grafton Press-Gazette. Now, that's a joke. I want to tell you how much fun this guy is. And he mentioned Rick Coleman and Tony Canoy and myself. Barry's got a nickname for everybody. I'm Tedro, Rick Coleman's Gordo. We played Stanford. He was the coach. He took us to the press conference out in L.A. And it was much like this, and we were sitting around and sitting in the back. Who was the coach? Shaw? Shaw. So it's kind of quiet. I'm sitting in the back. Barry and Gordo and Tony are standing behind the cameras here. They're standing there listening to Shaw, and kind of quiet like this. Nobody raises their hand. I'm in the back row. I raised my hand. I come up and I said, "You are you?" I said, "I'm Ted Kellner from the Press-Gazette, Grafton, Wisconsin." Nobody knows who that is. And I said, "Coach Shaw, this man has won 3 Rose Bowls. He is undefeated. Nobody has ever done that. You're preparing for this game. Have you gone back and looked at the films from his 3 Rose Bowls, 94, 99, and 2000? And Shaw goes, "Well, that's not a bad idea." Barry's back there. He said, "God damn it, that's Tedro asking that question. That's a great question." But I want to tell you, and he said, I came back from Florida today. I was here when Barry came in 1990. And those trophies and what he's done, you guys are in the press corps, you know it, but the lives he's impacted and the character that he's built, but also the fun that he has. I don't know if any of you can have an appreciation for people like myself and all the Wisconsin fans, how great a ride it's been. And I will tell you, this guy's a lot of fun. And I'm not talking about that. We have a lot of fun. Barry, he is the best. So I wanted to tell that little story. I'm going back to the Press-Gazette and Grafton and writing the story.
You know what? We tease each other unmercifully, and we've had the opportunity to introduce one another at different functions. Ted has, I had the fortune to intercept a pass here when I played, and Ted uses that as the introduction. And so we pimp each other any chance we have the opportunity. So Ted went into the Hall of Fame last year, and I called him to congratulate. Actually, we were going on our golf trip, and I said, got good news. You were just nominated and elected into the UW Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. Really? I said, that's a great honor. I said, and you're one vote away from being unanimous. He says, no kidding. Who didn't vote for me? I said, your coach.
We good?
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
thank you, everybody.
Pictures over here. That's it.